Christian courage, and I'm getting all the books.
All right, yeah.
All
I think we're live, guys.
We're live. Go for it.
All right, cool. So I wanted to start this one because I didn't talk a lot in the last one, at least in the beginning.
Why are you looking at me?
And they have no idea
Because
what
you
you're
did
talking about.
talk a lot.
Because the last ones were all recorded and haven't been released yet.
It's
So-
okay. It doesn't even matter. It doesn't even matter because that's what gives them a little suspense, right?
Right.
In any case, but yeah, I'm excited to be at this conference. What's the conference called again?
So we called it the Resisting Tyranny and Wokeness.
Okay, that's perfect because here's the thing. I think that there's a rampant problem with evangelical leaders where they pretend that they're being courageous, they're speaking truth to power, and or they'll say we're going to be countercultural. They'll write articles about being countercultural, and it's all fool's gold. It's all counterfeit. I used to call it LARPing. You guys know what LARPing is?
Yeah. When you pretend to be or not a superhero,
Yeah.
but like a gnome or an elf.
Yeah, you put on like cardboard armor, and you have a cardboard sword, and you fight battles in like Central Park. You ever seen people do this?
Yeah.
It kind of actually looks fun to me. I'm not gonna lie, but it's fake. It's not a real battle, right? And I think like Russell Moore literally wrote a book, The Courage to Stand. Right? We pulled it up because we almost didn't even believe that he wrote it.
It's like surely he didn't write that.
Surely he didn't write it, right? Because Russell Moore's idea of speaking truth to power is speaking all the lies that the enemies are speaking.
Right.
And it's like, and it's amazing that he gets this reputation amongst some people, not anyone that we care about their opinions, but among some people, he's this ferocious sort of, he's ethical leader, anti-abortion, fighter, and we see just compromise after compromise after compromise, and not picking on Russell Moore. A lot of guys do this.
Yeah.
And so I think this conference is going to showcase a lot of legitimate ways to fight tyranny, to fight all this nonsense. And it'll be a very sharp contrast to the fool's gold style of Russell Moore.
Right. And so picking up on that, one thing that I would add to that is Russell Moore's courage to stand and Al Mohler's courage to lead and everybody else's courage and Big Eva. Here's the deal. They have Russell Moore has courage to stand up against Goliath after he's already been slain, right? And Mohler has conviction to lead, but really it's leading once the road has already been paved, right? It's leading once the trail has already been blazed. It's my point is there's a reason why people always killed the prophets. Israel always killed the prophet. And the thing about a prophet is the prophet says things that 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, 100 years down the line will become just common expressions. You'll find it on the lips of babes and infants. You'll find it, everyone will be saying, you'll find it painted above the door. You'll find it in people's books. But what makes the prophet unique is he says it before anyone else. And he says it before it's socially acceptable or
the
culturally
coast isn't
acceptable.
clear yet. Yeah.
That's right. And so there are giants, right? So you think of like, okay, well, what about toxic masculinity? What about husbands beating their wives and beating their children? Are there still individual men who are abusing their God-given headship in the home and dominating over their wives and their children? Sure. But is that the big pervasive problem in our culture today? No. If we talk about in generalities, this is not meaning there aren't any exceptions, but in generalities, what's the bigger problem in our culture today? Is it toxic masculinity or is it feminism? Is it Jezebel? Right? And so when you are standing, have the courage to stand, courage to take a stand against toxic masculinity. Well, listen, Russell, if you had done that 50 years ago, it might have been courageous.
Yeah, that's right.
That giant has been slain. Hear me, the caveat, that doesn't mean there's not any isolated incidences of that problem. And we should still pastorally address those things. But my point is, in generalities, that is not the reigning giant alive and well and wreaking havoc among Israel today. It is this enemy. And so when we say resisting tyranny and wokeness, what we're saying is what makes it actual courage is not even that these are the biggest giants, although I think they're big ones, but we're saying they're actually living giants.
That's right.
We're not doing a conference where we high-five each other and we talk about, get the one-liners, zingers in there for the giants that have already been slain by somebody else. We're talking, these are still giants at large, right? There's still wanted posters with the face of tyranny and the face of wokeness on the wall. These guys are still at large, and some sheriff's got to go and bring them to justice. So,
yeah, the pioneers take the arrows, right?
Right.
And what's happening right now is, like you said, there's people that aren't willing to take a risk. I think that's to summarize what you were saying. There's no risk involved, but they're going to use the words like courageous and bravery. But what do they actually stand up to? It's to mice. It's to things that or shadow boxing. I used to say that all the time about Russell Moore. I'm like, he's just shadow boxing. Like, is there really someone out there who's trying to bring slavery back or something? But he's like really upset that that. So the issues that are right in front of us, and there's a quote that I don't want to botch it, but many people have probably heard. It's attributed to Martin Luther about basically hey, look, if you're not facing down the threats that are actually against the church right now in this moment, you're not actually defending the church. You're on a different front. Yep. So it doesn't really matter if you're going to write all kinds of books about standing firm on I don't know, even right now, to be honest with you, something like the charismatic movement. I'm like, that's great. Like, we need that to some extent. And I'm thinking more like the word faith, not charismatic. Sure. But, the prosperity gospel stuff. But what would be truly courageous, right? Like, even more of a risk, even like a greater threat to the church in this moment. Well, it would be like social justice. It would be what's coming in from a leftist Christianity. So we got to identify leaders who are willing to actually take risks for the church. No one wants to do that we don't want to suffer harm, but they actually have love. That's motivated a real love. Agape is self-sacrificial, right? So you can't really have real love. I mean, these things are all tied together: courage, bravery, love. So
Martin Luther, where the battle rages, there the loyalty of the soldier is proved, and to be steady on all other battlefields besides is mere flight and disgrace, cowardice, if he flinches at that one point. And so ultimately what Martin Luther is saying is this: where the battle's actually raging, when we're talking about Bunker's Hill, if we're talking about this is the decisive point, this is the enemy at large. If a soldier is faithful in every side skirmish, every other battlefront, every other issue, every other doctrinal tenet, except the one that is currently under siege, he's not loyal. He's disgraced himself. He is not a faithful soldier. The fidelity and the quote, I just pulled up part of it, but the quote goes on. I'm pretty sure Luther talks about a man's not just his loyalty, but his profession. He says, I have denied Christ. So if I'm affirming the Trinity, I'm affirming all the basic tenets of orthodoxy, but the one that is currently by my time, in God's providence, the place that he's put me in my day, my culture, my place in history, the one that is currently under fire, if I won't stand up and speak out for that one, I've denied Christ, which is a heavy thing to think about. So.
No, it definitely is, and obviously, this conference, it's smaller than the ones that Big Eva puts on. It's not going to have the budget that Big Eva puts on.
I don't know.
Well, we have 400 people that have registered.
I don't know,
so.
AD.
We
Hold
do
your
have.
horses.
That's true. So let me not to insult you here, buddy, but I think there's a lot of money behind the posturing, the fake courage, the courage that's going with the flow, and there's a lot of money behind that, because that's the kind of message that people want to hear. Where I'm a really good person. I'm against rape. And it's like, well, congratulations. You have the morality of everybody.
Everyone.
Rape culture always made me laugh. Like, there's supposedly this culture that condones rape. Meanwhile, if you know anything about prison, you know that the worst people among us, the mass murderers, the people that steal from grandma and stuff like that, don't even accept rapists. Like, they have to be protected because they'll be killed. Just because, look, you want to join my gang, go kill that rapist. We don't tolerate that stuff here. So it's like the worst people have that same morality. There's nothing courageous about that. I'm not saying it's bad to be against rape. Obviously, it's good to be against rape. Here's what would be courageous. Say, not only am I against rape, but God's law commands that we execute the rapist once they're caught. Yep. See, once you say that, all of their courage instantly goes away, because they're, well, hold on a second here. You got to love your neighbor. I'm like, what about the neighbor that was just raped? Right. You see what I'm saying? So, the courage goes away the moment you say something that's not allowed to be said in our secular society.
That's right.
So if I could point something out, which you just said is excellent, I think it's totally true. There's been, I think, a shift over the last 50 years, maybe even before that, but from even like pastors, and with one of the qualifications being refuting those who contradict, right? Those who contradict, you got to refute them, right? That's part of being an elder, a pastor.
Titus 1:9, I think.
To, I think, this managerial model. So it's not like about pastors with their dirty hands because they're busy working, they're doing the work of the ministry, which is gonna there's gonna be risks involved, right? it's kind of, I think the ideal pastor now is this figure who is very much a therapist and very much a manager, which are very like, more white collar, just kind of insulated jobs where like, oh, that person, they have leadership. Like, what does that even mean? Like, leadership now there's really like not a whole lot of risk. It's like you have a vision and you just are able to carry out a vision, whatever it is somehow, which, I mean, that's part of it. But like, but now I think it's like navigating the minefields that exist in our culture so as to create success for the institution. It's very institution driven. The church is an institution of heaven. It's, it exists whether we want it to or not. We can't change, God's plans in this earth. He's going to carry out his mission, which is a comforting thought. And pastors were those who risked their lives for something they knew. This is a permanent, this is here. I can't sink this ship. The guys today, though, they're managers. It's like, hey, if we do something wrong, like our Fortune 500 company's going to go under. Like we're going to, like, no, the church, we shouldn't even have that fear.
Don't upset the shareholders. Yeah,
exactly. Like, is that going to threaten God's kingdom? Like, we can be as bold as lions.
Right.
We can refute those who contradict. We shouldn't be afraid. What can man bring against me?
And the righteous are as bold as lions.
That's right.
And what we've really been seeing, this is a strong statement, but it's not just that the righteous can be as bold as lions. The righteous are as bold as lions. So when we see people who are not as bold as lions, perhaps we're not seeing the righteous. Perhaps those who are the cowards are also the wicked. Perhaps there's a correlation there.
Yeah, I don't even think you need to say the word perhaps.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
I really don't think you even need to say that.
Yep.
And I think one thing, and this will be my last thing I'll say, unless you ask me a weird question or something. But the things that I'm planning on presenting on tomorrow, and I would be willing to bet you guys as well, is that these are ordinary things that are actually within your control, the things that you can actually do. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I'm not going to be talking to you about how you affect change in the halls of Congress that you have no control over. Like, you're not going to tell you how to command the future in Ukraine or something like that. I'm going to talk about things that you actually have in your purview that any man right now can do themselves.
Good.
And so it's going to be super practical. I mean, it's going to be...
What's the name of your talk, AD?
Man, I don't even remember. Oh, Everyday Obedient Defiance. Yeah.
Practicing everyday obedient defiance.
Yeah, I
Great
told you I'm bad at titles. Well,
so I was going to talk about
That's
Christian nationalism, but we just recorded a whole thing that we're going to release like a week from now. I'm going to address it a little bit, but I actually a couple weeks ago I just started, and I know I probably shouldn't have done this, but I just really just started thinking along those lines, and so I'll address Christian nationalism briefly, but then I'm going to spend the lion's share of my time. Basically, I called it 5 lessons that Christians better not forget from the last 2 years.
I like that.
Because my thing is, and we talked about this earlier, but when will we learn? Right? So it's like, oh, they lied to us about COVID. Oh, they lied to us about this. Oh, they lied to us about this. But they always tell the truth starting now, Russia and Ukraine. Right? So
or the next thing,
whatever
whatever it is. Right.
Now they're telling the truth. It's like, oh my goodness. Like we have little hats with the propellers and lollipop, like a 4-year-old.
Does it scare anyone that like within a week you could go to vilifying an entire people group, canceling them from like every court,
from economies?
It could be Christians. Like you could literally,
totally,
like
It's
crazy.
And it didn't take much. And this is the thing that scares me. My brother put this in my mind. He's like, do you realize like all it took to make people cancel an entire nation was like 2 pictures of Zelensky and then 1 selfie video of him saying, we're here, you will not defeat us, like stuff like that. That's it. Mm-hmm. And we think that they're these masterminds, right? It's like they've been planning this for years. Maybe they have, maybe they haven't. But it took 3 images. Right. And everyone and their mother instantly knew what side to go to.
That's not true, AD. It took 3 real images, but it required a lot of fake images. That was part of it.
Wait. You don't believe the ghost of Kiev? You don't think
Babylon B just did an article today.
The beauty queen, the soldier as well.
Oh, with the
don't forget her.
Airsoft AR-15.
Right, yeah. Babylon B just did an article today that was like, oh, we found the ghost, the true identity. It showed a picture of like a fighter jet, and inside of it was Trump.
I didn't see that. It's pretty funny.
It's really funny. All right, what's your talk?
It's going to be just war theory now. Spent the whole morning studying for just war theory, and then we didn't even talk about it.
We mentioned it.
It's my fault. That's the thing. I can't really blame anyone
It's
but me.
kind of my fault, too.
I agree. It's both of their faults.
But what will be some of the things that you're going to get into?
Thanks, AD.
What are some of the things you're going to get into?
Yeah, we're gonna do a basic kind of. So I haven't been in this region of the country giving the talk. I typically give a talk on social justice in general, and like just defining it. What is it? Because people still, even now, we kind of like know what it is by like feeling what it is, seeing the effects of it, but like philosophically, like looking underneath the hood, most people haven't really done that. And I think the reason it's important to understand it in those terms is because once you see it very clearly laid out philosophically, you can see where the contradictions emerge, why Christianity actually is totally diametrically opposed to this. So I'll probably give a talk on that, and we'll go through some of the history of social justice. It's going to be quick, because what do I have, like 30 minutes? It's
No.
45?
At 50.
Oh, at 50
Everybody
now.
will get 50
Well, I'm going to
minutes.
talk about just war theory, too.
We better have 50 minutes. Let me just say that.
Yeah.
Oh.
Everybody, yeah.
Is that for me or is that for you?
For me.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, 50 minutes.
Yeah, if you say 50, it's going to be an hour. But yeah, no, I'm gonna probably go through the history of it, and then philosophically, what is it, and then what's a Christian response, kind of briefly to it, and it'll just be big picture stuff. So if someone wants to research like a certain aspect of it more, they can. But a lot of what I talk about in my book, probably.
Cool. So yeah, each of us. So here's the plan: 3 p.m. So if for some people, maybe you're watching, like, what conference are they talking about? So I'm in Williamson County. We're in Williamson County because we're actually in the same
all
room.
here, yeah.
Which is awesome. We're not doing something through Zoom. We're in the flesh. So Williamson County, Texas. It's north of Austin, Texas, and we are doing a conference tomorrow, Saturday, March 12th, tomorrow at Christ Fellowship Church in their gymnasium. It's gonna be packed because we have 400 people that registered.
Get there early.
And yeah, so 400 people, it's free. So when I say registered, I just mean people RSVP'd. So we'll see how many people actually show up. The weather's going to be a little bit cold, but we have 400 people who are saying they're going to show up, and it's a gymnasium. It's the church's gymnasium. It seats,
Bring a long chair.
I would say
Bring a long
comfortably
chair.
250, uncomfortably 300.
Oh boy.
And we're going to get 400 in there. So we'll see if 400 actually show up. But my point is, it's not too late to come and stand uncomfortably and listen to AD, myself, John, as we...
And we're doing Q&A, right? Afterwards,
Yep, and
right?
the very end, exactly. So we're each going to do a 50-minute session, 3 p.m. So it's tomorrow, 3 p.m. is when it starts. Our goal is to be done by 7, but the reality is we're probably going to get started later because we're going to have to do street parking. Seating is probably going to be a little bit chaotic, so we'll probably get started a little bit later because I don't want to eat into anybody's time. You're the first guy speaking, and I don't want to take away from your time. So please get there as soon as possible. We're going to do our best to start at 3. If we start later, we're not going to take away from John's time. Everything's just going to be pushed back because I don't want to steal from these guys or myself. We all have things that we want to say.
And
So
we
all
want
that
to
being
encourage.
said,
Yeah.
and then at the end, we're going to do Q&A. So
great.
if you got questions,
I'm excited.
it's going to be cool. So anyways, come out, see us. Anything else you guys want to add?
No, man, this has been great.
I just want to encourage people. That's the point of this. For those, we're not just
That's
trying to
right.
bash Russell Moore.
That's right.
A little bit of
AD
that.
is, but
A little bit of that.
no, like we really, people are truly hurting and confused and trying to find each other too. That's a networking
That's
thing.
right.
Like if you know solid believers, you want to meet them, know them, and I've just seen from certain like conferences and stuff I've done that are like this. Like it's such a blessing. The fellowship, these are permanent bonds that can form.
That's
so
right.
That's right.
come out not just to see us speak. You're coming out to meet people who share your values and your love for Christ.
Yeah, I'm
So-
glad you remember that part because it's not just like we have content, but people can read your book.
Yeah.
People can watch your YouTube. It's not just the content. It's a bunch of people have been out of church for 2 years, and not because the people who are coming to our thing is not because they were afraid of COVID. They've been out of church for 2 years because they haven't been able to find a faithful church.
Right.
They will take a stand that actually has Russell Moore's courage to stand, right? Because they can't find that courage to stand, and they certainly can't find it among pastors. They've been churchless. And so I'm encouraged that a bunch of people in Williamson County, and I know some people are driving in, some people have been like, hey, what hotels do you recommend? So I don't know. I don't know if people are flying in, but a lot of them will be local.
I bet you there's some.
Yeah. So a lot of people will be local. And so the cool thing though is like for everyone who's local, and when I say local, an hour and a half, you get to meet each other. You get to meet us, but you also get to meet each other.
Right.
And I've got 2 churches. If
Yeah.
you're looking for a church, you can come to my church, Covenant Bible Church in Georgetown, see John preach there the day after the conference on Sunday, or where the church that's hosting the conference, Christ Fellowship Church, is a great church.
And I'll give a free book to someone who came the farthest. How's that?
That's cool. Yeah.
Free
Sweet.
book.
All right. Well, that's it. We're signing off. I don't really know how to do this live thing. AD and John, I feel like you guys do it from time to time, but
I have. I mean,
I've done it like twice.
Hasta la vista. I don't know.
Hasta la vista, baby. All right. See you tomorrow.
God bless.
Bye.
That's what you do.